for people to reestablish their economies and to be able to go forward.
I think it's a wonderful idea that you've come up with, not only trying it, you know, like the whole point of the show is international talk. It's like, you know, you've not only found something that would be useful in the United States, but also something internationally, and you're also able to adapt to the different countries.
Linda kindly gave me a copy of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation write-up on their grant procedures. And in a little paragraph down in the southwest corner of the page, it said that the average subsistence farm that exists in South Sahara, in the South Sahara region, is about the size of a football field.
Yes.
It's subject to very, very difficult weather conditions, even more so now.
Which country is that? I'm sorry.
All generally all countries, Sub-Saharan Africa. And they have soil problems, and there's a shortage of fertilizer. People are struggling to make a living on this little small space that's impossible to do that. I've been exposed to truck farming since I was 6 years old. At 8 years of age, well, even younger than that, we were out pulling weeds in our garden. We lived on a little 5-acre property on the Detroit River, up on the Canadian side of the Detroit River. And our neighbors made a living by extracting 4 to 5 crops a year out of those little narrow strips of ground. They might have been 100 feet wide or 200 feet wide, and they might be a mile long. The old system that the land grants in Canada were issued on set up a family as with a large acreage, and then as that family grew, they separated the land into very narrow strips. And so these little tiny strips existed as farms, produce farms, where they raised beets and beans and onions and radishes and strawberries.
For their family?
No, for the garden market.
Oh, right.
And I can remember
farmers market. Or something.
Yeah, farmers market. We hauled all of the produce over to the market in Detroit, and I can recall one of our neighbors in 1948 when most people were just getting over the war. 1945, when the war was just over, and everyone was still struggling with income and food and so on. And these folks bought a brand new Cadillac from working on these little simple farms they had. And I recall getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going over to the greenhouse and firing up their greenhouse so I could keep it warm all night. So I had experience with this for a long, long time. I've been gardening for 72 years.
Well, I was going to ask, when I'm looking at this here, this seems to be what, like...
Yeah, that's a what it is, it's just a suggestion of how you could arrange a village.
Okay.
And the village occupies the activities of about 400 families, which would mean we're talking possibly as many as 500 to 800 workers.
Okay.
And those workers would be employed doing all of the things that are necessary. First of all, you have to have a wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
In Africa, one of the serious problems is that sanitation isn't a principal concept of the infrastructure.
Yes, it is an issue.
It needs to be addressed. And so why not address it by doing something constructive? We have a concept of using wastewater treatment facilities to grow sedge grasses to absorb the nutrients that come in the sewage.
Okay.
Those sedge grasses are then harvested once they've reached maturity. They can be chopped off, and there's a nice little company called Costaka over in Illinois that makes a wonderful cellulosic ethanol plant where they can produce ethanol for about 30 cents a liter.
Wow.
So it's a very economical process.
Why don't they use that in the United States?
Well,
or more actively?
It's actually being done now, and there are some really good advocates. There's an author who's got a book, Ethanol is a Gas, and you should read it because it describes this basic function. With that process, then, you're producing ethanol, and then when the ethanol, the sugars are extracted from that material, you're left with husks of this grass. That can be shredded up and turned into a part of a compost mixture.
Okay.
It can be blended with our growing medium, or we can really chop it up very fine and use it to make our composite lightweight concrete. Okay. These concrete slabs that will build these 400 houses that we're showing on this system.
And I'm not cutting you. We have that system culturally back home where we make bricks.
Yes.
Mostly, well, this is locally done. It's very, very, outdated. But still, some people use it. When you say you use those things in the brick,